Good morning, everybody. I'm Diana, a member of the congregation at Newcastle Unitarians.
And I'm Ben, also a member of the congregation.
Today's service is entitled Happiness Happens, and I've taken this from the Society of Happy People, who have been making August a whole month of celebrating happiness for 21 years. We'll start off by lighting our chalice with this serenity prayer.
God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Thanks, Ben. Happiness is a very difficult and complicated concept, and with so much wide-reaching and conflicting research, sometimes it can be hard to even make sure we're talking about the same thing. So do not be surprised if some of the things we explore here or that you've heard before seem at odds with one another. Moreover, if you are struggling with anxiety or depression, do seek the professional help that is out there and available to you. The lower you are, the more out of reach a good mood feels, and it can even feel offensive to you that others can be happy or that perhaps you can be happier too. The Society of Happy People, originally named the Secret Society of Happy People, is an American organization that celebrates being happy. Here is what the Society founder, Pamela Gale Johnson, has to say. Some people see the glass as half full. Some people see the glass as half empty. But I believe if you have a glass, you have a reason to grin. I grew up in a West Texas town that seemed large to me at the time, but now live in a big city. But regardless of where I live, one of my favorite things is to get together for great conversations and good times. Before starting the society, I tried lots of get happy philosophies and how-to programs, from the spiritual to the cognitive. Although I'm blessed with happy genetics, which helps me easily see the brighter side of life, I wanted to be happy all of the time. I discovered the obvious. You aren't going to be happy all of the time, but you can be happy a lot of the time. I'm easily amused, so you could say I am happy most of the time. I'm not a Pollyanna. Like most people, I get a little annoyed dealing with chronically cranky people, when my to-do list overwhelms me, or it's just too hot outside. However, I get through most days with more smiles than not. But enough about me. You're probably wondering, how did the Society of Happy People get started? Sometime in 1997, it occurred to me that some people not only didn't care whether or not I was happy, they actually seemed annoyed by it. I also noticed that lots of other happy people, like me, tended to keep a lot of our happiness to ourselves. Naturally, I started to wonder where all of the happy people were. And then my imagination kicked in, and I saw happy people standing around in a room, chit-chatting about all things happy. Then I saw their banner, the Secret Society of Happy. They were wearing Mardi Gras masks. That was so their identities remained a secret in case a parade rainer crashed the party. Originally, I thought this would be a great idea for an essay, but with the encouragement of a few happy friends and even a few strangers and a little blind optimism, I started the Secret Society of Happy People in August of 1998. That November, Ann Landers, the pen name of an advice columnist for the Chicago Sun-Times, publicly acknowledged the keep your happy news to yourself cultural norm by advising her readers to ditch writing and sending annual holiday letters chronicling family fates and fortunes. My motto was, if you're happy and you know it, what's wrong with writing at least one letter a year if it makes you smile? So of course I had to do something. I wrote Miss Landers a letter that was ignored by her that year, but embraced by the press, and voila, the Secret Society of Happy People became known internationally. And making me even happier, the following year, in part because of the reader response she got. Anne agreed with me that it was okay to share your happy news in holiday newsletters. After 20 plus years, we're not really a secret anymore. I'm still in awe when I think about our happy shout-outs. We're even in Wikipedia and have been on TV and in People magazine, to name a couple of places. Our original name, the Secret Society of Happy People, referred to people keeping their happy news to themselves, or keeping a secret from others because they didn't want people raining on their parades. While this can still be true, depending on who you hang out with, after 20 years of making the world a happier place, we're now the Society of Happy People. The society believes sharing your happiness with other happy people makes two people smile more. We also identified 31 types of happiness to help you find more happiness. And we were the first group to create 3 happy holiday celebrations so we could inspire more people to celebrate happiness. Our members even have a private Facebook group to share their happiness with each other. The Society provides me with a unique opportunity to interact with thousands of happy and not so happy people in their effort to be happy most of the time. Every year there is a theme, and this year's theme is Operation Smile Starter. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to try to do something each day in August to start at least one smile a day. And starting a smile for yourself counts too. Granted, it is now the end of August, but there's no reason you can't do this whenever you like. Some statistics about smiles. Adults typically smile around 20 times per day compared to children, who smile 400 times a day. Now, if you're reading our page, you might smile a little more than that, since you're probably naturally happier than some. And this challenge gets even happier since smiling is contagious. Your smile starts other smiles. And the more you smile, the better. Sean Archer, a happiness expert, reminds us that smiling also helps us retrain our brains to think more positive thoughts. Who can't use more positive thoughts, especially right now? And even if you're not feeling all smiley, even a fake smile can help improve your mood. We'll have a poem now from happiness researcher Dr. Robert Bolden. Happiness cannot happen without your decision to be happy. Love cannot grow without your decision to be loving. Peace cannot blossom without your decision to be peaceful. Freedom cannot bloom without your decision to be free. Miracles cannot flower without your decision to be open. Bliss cannot flourish without your decision to be guiltless. Heaven cannot bear its fruits without your decision to receive. I'll hand over to Ben now for another article taken from the Society of Happy People's website entitled, What is Happiness? Happiness is Bigger Than You Think, by Pamela Gale Johnson.
Happiness is elusive because there isn't an exact recipe for it, no matter how much we want one and how many scientific studies are done to help us understand happiness. Happiness is one of those experiences that we just know when it happens. If you need to think about whether you're happy, you probably aren't at that moment. So what is happiness? Is it possible to define something that sounds so simple, yet is obviously complex? Before starting the society, I tried more Get Happy philosophy or how-to programs from the spiritual to the cognitive than I can remember. Although I'm blessed with happy genetics, so I naturally see the brighter side of life, I wanted to be happy all of the time. What I learned was that although you can't be happy all of the time, you can be happy most of the time. You just need to recognize more of the happiness that's already happening. After starting the society, I identified 31 types of happiness to make recognizing happiness easier. Sometimes happiness is the relief and satisfaction we get when we finish cleaning the kitchen. Sometimes it's watching a child or pet do something that amuses us. Or sometimes it's obvious, like going to a party. But ultimately, happiness is around us, and it's up to us to recognize it. Often we think happiness is about stuff, but science has shown that wanting expensive things makes us happier than actually buying them. Unhappiness happens to the happiest of people. People are meant to feel a gamut of emotions, including happiness, but not exclusive to it. Actually feeling our unhappiness clears the space for us to feel happiness if we're feeling unhappy. Our original society slogan was, "Are you happier than you admit you are?" The society wanted people to pay attention to what they talked about. For example, were they talking about their happy moments as much as they talked about their unhappy ones? Did they do it with the same zest and enthusiasm with which they talked about their happiness zappers with? One day, it occurred to me that if I wanted people to talk more about happiness, they needed to recognize more happiness. Of course, that forced me to think about the definition of happiness. You usually know when you're happy. It's when you feel good, when you naturally smile, when you laugh, and when the small things really don't bother you. However, all happiness doesn't always feel the same. The feelings can be different, and so can the causes. Think about these different happy moments and the different feelings that they evoke. There's the happiness we feel when our child makes us smile, love. There's the happiness we feel when we accomplish a goal, satisfied. There's the happiness we feel when we're at a party, celebrating. There's the happiness we feel when we do the right thing even when it's hard, honorable. There's the happiness we feel when we anticipate going on a vacation, enthusiastic. There's the happiness we feel when the worst didn't happen, relief. There's the happiness we feel when our life is mostly drama-free, content. There's the happiness we feel when we realize all of the good things we experience, blessed. There's the happiness we feel when we help someone, helpful. There's the happiness we feel when we do our best, proud. There's the happiness we feel when we feel connected to something bigger than ourselves, spiritual. There's the happiness we feel when we recall a memory from the past that makes us smile, nostalgic. There's the happiness we feel when others appreciate us, valued. There are many experiences that fall under the happiness umbrella because they make you feel good. Ironically, recognizing the many different types of happy feelings can be a little complicated, not because feeling good is complicated, but because you're often oblivious to all of the little moments that make you happy. You take them for granted and sometimes don't even notice them. When I started the society, I was working in the mental health field. There was a popular poster, "What am I feeling today?" that therapists use to help clients recognize different feelings. It had 40 or more cartoon faces on it with names of feelings, since this was the pre-emoji era. For kicks, I divided the different types of feelings into categories, those that felt good and those that felt bad. Once I tallied it up, the poster identified 3 negative feelings for every positive one. That made me think, shouldn't the poster have identified half happy and half unhappy feelings? I wondered if the therapeutic community was inadvertently teaching people to identify more unhappy than happy feelings. A few weeks later, at a company meeting, a co-worker and I amused ourselves by identifying 18 types of happiness. Over the years, this list grew to 31 types of happiness and has even changed a few times. There are actually more, but 31 types of happiness make sense for the society. A type for each day of Happiness Happens month in August, such as being blessed, helpful, and proud, which we just heard. Happiness isn't linear. It's not one size fits all. It's also not stagnant. It is abundant. Happy moments happen all of the time, even in the midst of unhappy moments. It's up to you to recognize them. When you do that, you realize that happiness is bigger than you think.
Let's hear more about what happiness might mean from another happiness researcher, Dr. Paul Dolan, who has written an excellent book called Happiness by Design. This is an article he wrote summarizing the book's ideas.
Are you a pleasure machine or a purpose engine? Maximizing your happiness by balancing pleasure and purpose. We need more than one type of experience to be truly happy. Experiences of happiness fall under two broad categories: those that feel pleasurable, e.g. joyful, content, excited, and those that feel purposeful, e.g. worthwhile, meaningful, fulfilling. For example, most people find work to be more purposeful than pleasurable, whereas they find television to be more pleasurable than purposeful. Volunteering tends to be high in both pleasure and purpose, as does praying and going to church. We need a mix of both pleasurable and purposeful experiences to be truly happy. People differ in their relative balance of pleasure and purpose. Pleasure machines feel pleasure more often than purpose, and purpose engines feel purpose more often than pleasure. Optimizing your happiness is about optimizing your balance of pleasure and purpose. The balance might be different at different times. For example, you might become a pleasure machine during a holiday from work, whilst you're a purpose engine when you're back at your desk. You may have been content being a pleasure machine in your 20s, going out with friends often, but become more of a purpose engine as you grow older, perhaps spending more time with family. Interestingly, teens in the US experience less purpose than any other age group. Although everyone has their own optimal balance of pleasure and purpose, it is possible to make a general claim about how to best trade them off. If you have a lot more purpose than you have pleasure, then you should spend more time engaging in pleasure. Likewise, if you have a lot more pleasure than purpose, then you should spend more time engaging in purpose. This claim is based on the law of diminishing marginal returns. To illustrate, imagine two goods, beer and pizza, and assume you like both. The first beer goes down smoothly, and the first slice of pizza tastes really nice. The next beer is good, but not quite as good as the first one, and the next slice of pizza is nice, but not as nice as the first. So if you have had 4 beers, you would probably be willing to give up the 5th beer for a first slice of pizza. If instead you have had 4 slices of pizza, you'd probably be willing to give up the 5th slice for a first beer. The same logic applies to other goods and aspects of life, and also to pleasure and purpose. If you have a lot of pleasure, you could be happier by trading it for some purpose. Likewise, if you have a lot of purpose, you could be happier by trading it for some pleasure. For instance, after the pleasure of a Netflix binge starts to wane, you could be made happier by doing something worthwhile, like helping out a friend, rather than watching another episode. This pleasure-purpose principle can explain why people do things that might otherwise appear to detract from their happiness. Getting angry from time to time, working long hours, and having children may no longer be such crazy things to do because they tend to bring purpose more so than pleasure. But they might be bad for your happiness overall if you sacrifice a lot of pleasure for a little more purpose. If your own balance between pleasure and purpose is out of kilter.
Thoughts from Dr. Paul Dolan. As we have seen, happiness can be an extraordinarily difficult thing to pin down and define. Writings, research, and opinions on happiness are very wide-reaching, complicated, and conflicting, but we are beginning to understand it better. Past research has tended to focus on people quickly and thoughtlessly evaluating their lives, quite often according to how much pleasure or satisfaction they think they are experiencing in random snapshot moments. But newer research is showing that our evaluating brain is different from our experiencing brain, meaning when we evaluate our lives, especially specific isolated moments, either in the present or in the past, we may evaluate them as happier or sadder than we actually felt in the moment we experienced them. This means that as individuals and communities, we're not always very good at knowing what happiness is, or even if we think we do, we're not always certain what makes us happy. Society enfolds us in images and impressions that make us feel that happiness is something to which we are entitled, that we should strive for, and that we should be in a happy state all the time. But in fact, this attitude can be very damaging. We are made to think that to achieve this endless happiness, we need to think positively, set ambitious goals, and buy more stuff. However, this approach has huge flaws. Derren Brown, the illusionist and hypnotist, has written a wonderful book called Happy, in which he explores what the idea means, and particularly Stoic approaches to happiness. The problem with goal setting for him, especially ambitious goals, is that we may plan for a future that, even if we are successful in achieving it, may not be what we want when we get it. And we may have achieved it at the expense of enjoying happiness in each given moment, leaving us miserable on the journey. The same is true of stuff. We may gain some pleasure from the rush of buying another desired item, but what do we feel when the high wears off? And the danger of the positive thought trend is that we push away the normal, healthy, but difficult emotions. Uncomfortable feelings make life what it is, but you can choose how you frame them, how you immerse yourself in them, and integrate them into who you are. Extreme positive thinking, the pursuit of an unending up and of achieved goals as a way of being happy, leads to perceived failure for almost all of us, and leads to a destructive cycle of self-condemnation, a feeling that can be avoided by not attaching to the idea of happiness at the end of a goal in the first place. The Society of Happy People founder, Pamela, touches on this very important point too, that we cannot be happy all of the time, but we can be most of the time. And that isn't something that you are either born able to do or aren't. It's a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. A running theme that I have found through studying happiness is that an enormous amount of our mood is dependent on where we focus our attention. As we heard in Pamela's article from the Society's website, sometimes we are oblivious to moments in life that could make us feel uplifted. And it is up to us to learn to notice these things if we choose to. Derren Brown and other hypnotists like Paul McKenna explain that we all have scripts that develop from the day we are born, that influence our view of the world, our view of ourselves, and largely dictate our behaviors and tell us where to focus our attention. We pick these scripts and narratives up from our environment, and particularly from the people that surround us in our early years. The good news is that they also explain that we can challenge and rewrite these scripts with dedicated focus in new directions and practicing new thought habits. Dr. Paul Dolan explains how his research has shown that a balance of pleasure and purpose are required for a really happy life, and that looking at lifestyle over time really shows how happy you are, rather than focusing in on isolated moments of pleasure, which are only a tiny part of a complex picture. Pamela Johnson's list of 31 types of happiness gives us a good overview of forms that are both pleasurable and purposeful. The charity Action for Happiness, an organization that strongly believes that happier people equals a better world, as happier people care about each other more, hurt each other less, and work for the good of all, has laid out 10 keys to happiness that follow a very similar pattern and make up the acronym Great Dream. They write on their website, Action for Happiness has developed the 10 keys to happier living based on a review of the latest scientific research relating to happiness. Everyone's path to happiness is different, but the research suggests these 10 keys consistently tend to have a positive impact on people's overall happiness and well-being. The first 5, Great, relates to how we interact with the outside world in our daily activities, and the second 5, Dream, come more from inside us and depend on our attitude to life. Here they are. Giving, do things for others. Relating, connect with people. Exercising, take care of your body. Awareness, live life mindfully. Trying out, keep learning new things. Direction, have goals to look forward to. Resilience, find ways to bounce back. Emotions, focus on what's good. Acceptance, be comfortable with who you are. Meaning, be part of something bigger. In a strong echo of these 10 keys and of the Society of Happy People's theme this year of sharing smiles, Paul McKenna writes that being happy is simple. Being unhappy is complicated. Happiness teaches us that deep down we are all already connected to each other, and it reminds us to enjoy that. Happiness reminds us that every day is precious. Every day we can choose happiness. We can choose to live by our values, and we can choose to be grateful for the amazing possibilities we are given. Every day that you are happy increases the sum total of happiness in the world. When enough of us live happily by our values, we make a real contribution to everyone's happiness. So don't keep happiness to yourself. Spread it around, and it will make you happier still. Derren Brown, who is really a philosopher at heart, explores Stoicism in particular in his book Happy. Stoicism can easily but wrongly be reduced to suffering without complaining. This misses the point. Stoicism advocated recognizing that a huge part of how we feel about the world is due to our own judgments and thoughts, and we can challenge and change these. Stoicism also, like many other philosophies, promoted the idea of non-attachment as a path to serenity and joy. By detaching yourself from the need to control things that you can't, you'll feel calmer and therefore more at ease. In the same vein, detaching yourself from everything you love, including people, lifestyle, and objects, gives you the freedom to enjoy them as they are in this moment. And should they be taken away from you through circumstances that you cannot control, your inner peaceful equilibrium will be largely unperturbed. Letting go of what you cannot control is a key to a calmer outlook and therefore a smoother, happier life. And this is why I included the Serenity Prayer at the opening. Derren practices what he calls his "it's fine" approach. You cannot control how someone else behaves or what events may sometimes happen to you, but you can control your responses. Action for Happiness says something similar. If you can't change it, change how you think about it. Being here now is another point that comes up time and again. Appreciate the present moment. Derren Brown writes in his book, "The present is a fact, the future is contingent," and he advocates a balancing act between appreciating the present moment, immersing oneself in a mindful experience of what is going on right now, with also considering the future with a stoic attitude of non-attachment to the outcomes. The relentless pursuit of happiness, the relentless pursuit of anything, is not a recipe for a calm and content life. Indeed, The act of pursuing a state or feeling means that you remain in a constant state of pursuit, rather than actually experiencing the desired feeling. It's Jan tomorrow, never Jan today. And this is why appreciating this moment gives you access to peace and the contentment that that brings with it. Dr. Robert Holden touches on one other hugely important point, love. In his book, Happiness Now, he writes, "If you dedicate your life to love, you will be happy. Love is your best bet for happiness. If you are being genuinely loving, you will feel happy. Conversely, if you are not happy, you are not being loving. Love and be happy is the key, and you are never not really full of love." We have heard the view that there is no recipe for happiness. There is no one philosophy, no one pathway that leads to happiness. But perhaps there is a rough guide. Combine pleasure and purpose in balance. Practice focusing your attention on the positives and the blessings that you already have around you. Unburden yourself of stuff and of thoughts about anything that you cannot control. Make peace with the difficult parts of yourself, and do not beat yourself up when you are not joyful and cheerful. Do not chase a future happiness, but instead be here now. Smile, be playful, and above all, love. Do not seek happiness, do not chase it. You can, as Derren Brown puts it, approach happiness indirectly. Instead of the chase, practice the skills and develop a lifestyle that encourage a happy mind as a byproduct. Abandon the hunt for happy flowers and instead plant contentment, peace, love and joy seeds and tend those seedlings every day and share your smiles.
Our closing words are another poem by Dr. Robert Holden. Let love be your God. Love and let love be your God. Pray to love, worship love, sing to love, meditate on love. Walk with love, talk with love, look with love, listen with love. Dedicate your life to love. Dedicate your relationships to love. Dedicate your work to love. Love and let love be your God. Love and be happy.